It gives me a great pleasure to welcome everyone here to the Arlee Celebration Grounds on this fine day for the reenactment of the traditional customs that our people lived a long time ago. The storyteller today will be Old Charlie, who will be talking to his grandson Tommy and his granddaughter Mary. Old Charlie has numerous stories that were told to him by his elders. It is from these stories that Old Charlie passes this information on to his grandchildren, just as it was done generations ago from elder to youth. Tommy and Mary have been raised in the home where tradition is important, so they already know the importance of respecting the words of the elders. They've been taught not to question the elders' words. This story will take you through the present time, into a couple of generations ago, then on into the past, many, many generations ago, then back 200 years ago, and back to the present day. So sit back and relax. I'll see you a little later.
Grandfather, I know you know a lot about our culture. Tell us about the celebrations that took place a long time ago. What was it like, Grandpa?
Well, I remember my father telling me about the good old days when my grandfather and the other leaders would gather at someone's home. They would make plans for the upcoming celebration. One person would pull out his money pouch and donate $50. Then another person would also donate money. A couple of the other richer Indians would donate money plus a cow. There would be quite a few dollars collected. This money was used to buy food for the celebration. They purchased coffee, sugar, salt, baking powder, flour, and other items of food. This was to be distributed as rations for the campers.
Everything must have been pretty expensive, right, Grandpa?
Well, Mary, everything's expensive today. The cost of food a long time ago was cheap. You could buy 100 pounds of sugar for $3.75 and 50 pounds of flour for 90 cents.
Grandpa, what did they do with all the cows that were donated?
Well, Tommy, they were left with a caretaker until the celebration started. Then the cows were butchered and given out as rations for the encampment.
It must have been a lot of work to prepare for the celebrations a long time ago, right?
Yes, Mary, it was. But from within the group, appointed duties for the celebration would be selected. Duties that were appointed were for the maintenance of the war dance arbor, teepee pole cutters, camp criers, and so on.
Grandpa, how did they know where to have their encampment?
Well, Tommy, This would have to be a good place where there was good water, plenty of grass for the horses, lots of good firewood, and level ground.
How did they know how many days they were going to celebrate, Grandpa?
Mary, this depended on how many cows were donated, because they had many things to reenact during the celebrations of a long time ago. One of the elders said that at the end of one of their celebrations, they had some cows left over, so they just left it with a caretaker until the next year. When the celebration meeting ended, the messengers were sent out in different directions to deliver the news of the upcoming celebration. You know, in our celebrations of the 1940s and 50s, many of the local businesses, after hearing of the upcoming celebration, they would be glad. They would donate money or goods also. They were thankful because their businesses benefited from the celebrations too.
Look, there's old Charlie with Tommy and Mary. Hello, old Charlie. Hello, Tommy. Hello, Mary.
Well, hello. Nice to see all of you. I just telling my grandchildren about the good old days. Why don't you kids sit down and relax? I'm going to tell all of you guys about the teepee setup. As you can see, the whole family is gathered to set up this camp. I remember a long time ago, when we used to set up our camp, my grandmother seemed to always be the chief. She'd always be telling us what to do, even though we still knew how to set up our teepee. Our teepee would have a 4-pole setup.
Excuse me, old Charlie, you said a 4-pole setup?
Yes, our people had a 4-pole setup. There are some tribes that have a 3-pole setup.
How many poles did we use for the whole teepee setup?
We used about 17 poles for an average 16-foot teepee. 4 would be the main tie poles, which was called the support poles. They would be thicker than the others. When the support poles are tied, they use a long rope.
Why is that, Grandpa?
Well, Tommy, they used this rope to help pull up the support poles when it stood up. And later, they would use this rope to stake down the teepee. So when everyone is sound asleep and the wind blows, the teepee won't blow down. When the 4 support poles are stood up, they would put up the 8 helper poles. 4 poles on the left side of the support poles and 4 on the right side of the support poles. The 2 door poles are put up next. One of the poles would be called coyote and the other would be called fox. These poles are also thick and heavy. The teepee is attached to the center pole. This pole is called the chief pole. The teepee has tie strings that are sewn at the top and the bottom, exactly in the middle of the teepee. They would place the chief pole in the rear of the pole frame between the 2 door poles. Look at Grandma, still being bossy. I know that the family already knows how to set up a teepee, but in respect for Grandma, they don't question her authority. The pins and the pegs represent the claws of the badger. When the teepee came to the people, Old Man Wind, he was an evil person and hated the human beings. He would come along and blow away the teepee of the humans. So the spirit of the badger came to help. He gave his claws to the people to hold down their lodges from being blown away.
Grandpa, how come the teepee is not pounded all the way down to the ground? The teepee is still off the ground.
Uh-oh. Looks like they goofed up. No, I was just kidding. The teepee is purposely made this way. When they first laid the 4 support poles down, they measured the poles a few inches longer than the teepee. This keeps the teepee from touching the ground, so it won't get wet and mildew. After the stakes are all pounded in the ground, there is a teepee liner that is attached to the poles on the inside of the teepee. It's about 5 to 6 feet high and reaches down to the ground.
Grandpa, it still makes no sense to me why the teepee is off the ground. Won't the water go under the teepee during a rainstorm? And when the wind blows, won't it blow through the teepee and make it cold and windy inside?
Well, Mary, they used to make a trench on the ground around the bottom of the teepee, and an outlet was made toward the lowest part of the ground so the water drains out and not flooding into the teepee. As for the wind, that is what the teepee liner is for. When the wind blows from either direction, it goes under the teepee and up between the teepee and the teepee liner and straight up to the top. So when a fire is made inside of the lodge, the smoke is drawn straight up to the top. If you didn't have a teepee liner inside and you built a fire, and when the wind blows, what do you think is going to happen?
Ah, it's gonna get pretty smoky inside, right?
Right, Mary. Look up there at the top of the teepee. These are the ear flaps. They are called the owls. They listen for bad news, so they can give you warning. It tells you from which direction the wind is blowing. They'll usually close these ear flaps over each other when there's a rainstorm or strong winds. Well, looks like they've finished up the construction of the teepee. You can see old Grandma standing back there nodding her head and giving her final approval of satisfaction.
Are they finished yet, Grandpa?
Not quite, Tommy. Now they got to arrange house. Every item has its place in the lodge. When you enter the teepee, you go to the direction of the sun, to the left, clockwise. The first item next to the door is the wood. The next area is where the boys and the other men sleep. At the back center is where the chief or the head of the household sits. Going on around is where the women or the girls sleep. The groceries are next, and finally next to the door is the bucket of water. The fireplace is in the center of the lodge. Now they're finished. It looks like the children are anxious to go out and play with their friends. They're asking Grandma for permission to go out and play. Grandma tells them, "Yes, but remember to be very quiet and don't go screaming and hollering around. This is in respect for the people who are in mourning. After the memorial parade, the noon share is finished, then you can hoop it up."
From here, the story of S. Nunche takes you way back in time, thousands of years ago. We see at the chief's camp that they have just finished up with a meeting, and the camp crier is sent out to make his announcements to the people. Let's listen to what he's saying.
Sinumtui, Clupisint Scale, Yatwa, Napuis Quaxtum, Kulwit Sot, Clupaps, Alcumin, Clusin Chilchaskajas, Sinumtis, Clutilastin Clail, Nam, Te, Swa, Tsin Shalich, Msons, Chachan, Mpaks Kulwitsut, Mi Penunt, Tasua, Mpaks Hulshitutun.
This is what he's saying. Can I have your attention, my fellow people? Today, after you've had your morning meal, you will get ready. You that have memorial keepsakes, or the horses of your loved ones, or the clothing of your loved ones, you will get ready. This will be the time. You will bring these out. There will be someone coming around to let you know where to gather, and you will know who will lead you.
Grandpa, why are all those kids following the camp crier?
Watch, Mary. As each of them hear what the camp crier is saying, they run back to their lodges and relay the message. This is not a custom. The children just like doing this. See that man going to each camp? Well, he's asking them if they have memorial keepsakes that will be shown. If they have, then they are told where to gather for the memorial parade.
Grandpa, what do you mean when you say memorial keepsakes?
Well, Tommy, in the old times, when a warrior passed away or was killed in battle, the warrior's family looked among the people to find a person that resembles the warrior. The family would give to this person all of the warrior's clothing. They never divided the clothing up. Other memorial keepsakes would be the warrior's horse, his war bonnet, his shield, maybe his lance or his flag.
I noticed the people who are going to be in the memorial procession are headed over in that direction. Is there any reason for that?
Well, yes, Mary. In most cases, the procession usually gathered around the north and the east. This was the direction where most of our enemy lived. But in this case, there happens to be a good shelter where the people can prepare themselves for the memorial procession. This place is out of view from the rest of the encampment. You know, the custom of the people a long time ago, during the mourning period, the widowed person remained at home for a period of 1 year. The widow or the widower put on his or her poorest clothing. The hair was never combed, the face was never painted, and ornaments of any kind were avoided. Also, they never participated in games or celebrations. The person in mourning had an old man or woman cut his or her hair almost to the scalp. Also, the mane and the tail of the deceased's horse would be cut off just as short as the mourner's hair. This horse was never worked, nor was it ever taken east on the plains. The horse was left in the care of some relatives. The widowed person went to live with the parents-in-law for the entire mourning period. This was done primarily to be near them and comfort them in their sorrow. Should the parents-in-law consider the mourning period long enough, they presented the person with a fine outfit of clothing. This would formally release him or her from all obligations and was given consent to remarry. The new mate was often a brother or a sister of the former spouse. When you saw a widowed person emerge from a lodge clean, well-groomed, and dressed in the best clothing available, then it was known that the mourning period was over.
Look, I see them coming.
Atrent Pesia Atrent Yechtenumten Chaimi Essen Kumestp Luteset Uwichtp Lu Astem Eschtenumt yetchtenumten, atchen, yen staksam, yestle, yesemudlemen, yetchtla, ichmi she, lusel kommen, lukakesen kumistum, tapistem kakel wichtum, lukachamench, kes questlie, stumtem, yel stolich. Atchen, lusen chiltas kaches, luch atsal kaches, lues chnepelestem, tapistem, kakel wichtum, chumte, messen she, luch cheum, with les pami, to quay, lu it les spilste wehui, u yel keksin kaiten.
Here's what he's saying. Look, all of you, look at these clothing. Maybe you remember the last time you saw your loved one wearing these. Look at these items, the shield, the lance, the feathered Indian flag. These are the only items that is left behind for us that reminds us of our loved ones. We will never see our loved ones carrying these items here on earth. Look at the warrior's horse with all its finest decorations, which is being led. We will never see the warrior riding this horse on the open fields, on buffalo hunts, in battles, or around the encampment again.
Sad. Makes me want to cry too. Grandpa, what happens to all of those belongings of the deceased?
Well, Mary, the people who receive these memorial keepsakes keep them for a year. Then after the year, they can do whatever they want with them. Most of the people wear the clothing until there is no more use to them. The items such as the war bonnets, shields, lances, flags, and so forth, they would be used daily or put away to be brought out on special occasions.
Grandpa, what is happening now? See at the Chiefs camp?
Well, Tommy, the chief is going to make his announcements to the people. Let's listen to what he's going to say.
Keksen PLC. Kewis Chawa Kus. Kekhamen. Pesia. Tissen Ksteli. Unsotui. Ushushkenui. Teusui. Pesia. Luis Zotui. Lupus Kaltemich. Usum MM. Gemeint. Luas Suksehul. Keksen PLC. Keks Joshua Shelshi. Sheyuket Stachole, Keksen PLC, Nepuisen Tchenem, Kek Stachole, Nemke Wench, Schuchelke Polquelem, Schukke Holchamushen. Oitemistui, Tapkes Esh, Tapkes Nwelpum, Tapkes Amaim, Es Yatlupul Skalkaltmich Perskui. Tupul sui num, tupul Jesus, Kesia, in Piesui. Lui sotum sun tsaam. Sotui, and Kutepui, Pes Joshua Shelshi, Tupul Pilchep, Uts Huench, Lui Sotui, Kex Huenchi, Nayen Yakoke, Tupul sum
Here's what the chief is saying. It is now time that we turn ourselves loose. It is time to celebrate. We've shed our tears for our loved ones. All of you, my people, empty your pants, comb your hair, clean your faces. Everyone, get ready. You men and women, turn your children loose. Let us be happy. Let's hoop and holler. Now is the time we begin our celebration. After you've had lunch, then we will begin. We will dance to the dances of our ancestors. Everyone, do your best. Don't be ashamed. Don't be hesitant. Don't get mad. All of you men and women, you beautiful and ugly ones, all of us, let's be happy. Get your horses ready. Get yourselves dressed and ready. Ride throughout the camp. Hoop and holler. You drummers and dancers, get ready. We're going to dance this afternoon. All you women, begin your cooking. Well, it looks like the people are preparing for the snake dance.
Snake dance? Grandfather, why do they call it the snake dance?
Well, Tommy, this dance has nothing to do with a snake. When the people who study about the ways of the Indians saw this dance, they called it the snake dance because this dance was done in a zigzag fashion while entering the encampment. This dance was performed in memory of some young warriors who were returning home from a raiding party, tired and weak. As they entered the camp, they were staggering in a serpentine fashion. It's from that time on that the snake dance became a memorial parade. The snake dance has been performed for many generations. This dance in Salish is called Saninin Pamensutin. It means the dance of the weaving back and forth. The dancers danced in a proud fashion. We continue to do this dance on the 4th of July each year here at Arlee during our annual celebration. This celebration has been here for over a century now. Listen. You'll notice that the dancers don't start out dancing at the very first drum beat of the song, like they do today at the celebrations. They wait for the dance leader to give them the signal to dance. See that guy over there with the war bonnet on? The one who is standing at the east entrance?
Yeah.
Well, he's the war dance chief. He's the one who will be in charge of the dancing. You guys watch and listen now.
I noticed that the war dance chief went in one direction and the rest of the dancers went in the other. Why is that, Grandpa?
Well, Tommy, the war dance chief always follows the sun's direction, and the rest of the dancers dance counterclockwise. If you notice in today's celebrations, our people dance counterclockwise just as the way they used to do a long time ago. The only time we danced clockwise was to honor songs, memorial songs, or round dance songs. It looks like they're going to get started again. Let's listen to this next song. You'll notice the dancers dance different styles. In the old style of war dancing, all the dancers carried weapons of some sort. As they danced, they were making motions such as looking for enemy, looking for tracks, maybe scanning the horizon, or attacking an enemy. They would be stabbing with spears or striking downward with tomahawks. The dancers dressed in their finest clothes and wore their bonnets Some have only their moccasins, breechcloth, and headdresses. Their faces were painted, and their hair done up in various fashions as if they were going to war.
I noticed that there are some who have different colors of paint on their faces.
Yes, Mary. The red paint is the markings of blood. It shows that the person has done battle with the enemy. Most likely, he will have the same red markings on his horse, which meant that this horse had been in a battle also. Stripes of red, yellow, white, or black were common. The legs were often painted yellow or white. Black paint signified that this was an extremely smart and successful warrior. By putting on paint, this was a prayer, like saying, "There will be no blood spilled from myself or from my horse."
I see the dancers are not all wearing the same kind of headdresses.
That's right. In the old style of war dancing, the dancers wore many different kinds of bonnets. These were patterned after their own spiritual visions. Many of these bonnets were of eagle tail feathers. These were common. Other headdresses were of entire skins of birds or heads of animals. Others were made with buffalo, antelope, and deer horns.
Grandpa, when did they do their war dancing?
Well, Tommy, the war dancing would be held when they were in anticipation for war. Another would be going to war or before going on a raid. One would be before making an attack or when expecting to be attacked. They even war danced before going on buffalo hunts, so they would be prepared for the enemy if they were attacked unexpectedly. I see that the evening is setting upon us. The people will continue their war dancing through most of the evening.
Grandpa, I know the eagle feather is important to the people. Can you explain more about this to us?
Sure, Tommy. The eagle feather was a symbol of great deed. A person received an eagle feather after he or she had accomplished an honorable deed and was witnessed by another person. It's like at your school. If you do something great, what do you receive?
Oh, probably a ribbon, a medal, a trophy, or a certificate of some kind.
That's exactly right, Tommy. That's what the eagle feather represents. When you see someone carrying a pole with many eagle feathers on it, you'll know that this person has earned each one of these eagle feathers. He has a story for each one of these feathers. This pole would be considered a flag. Look over there. See that young man?
Yeah.
Well, he's preparing for the canvas dance. He will sing songs throughout the night. He'll sing one song in front of one camp. After he finishes, he'll go on to the next camp and sing a different song.
Why do they call it canvas dancing?
Kind of confusing, isn't it, Mary? Well, a long time ago, the people used to use buffalo robes to pound on. Again, the different riders who studied the ways of the Indians These were the ones who gave these titles of these various ceremonies we do today, such as the canvas dancing. At the time these writers were writing about the canvas dance, they saw the Salish and the Ponderay pounding on canvas instead of buffalo robes, so they called us canvas dancing. There's no dancing done, it's just singing.
What is the Indian name for the ceremony, Grandpa?
Tommy, it's called Sinkaka'a. Say that, Sinkaka'a.
Sinkaka'a.
Now all of you say it.
Sinkaka'a.
That's right, good, Sinkaka'a. The Sinkaka'a came from a coyote legend, and it is forbidden to tell these coyote legends during this time of the year. These legends were only told during the winter months. It was Old Man Coyote who brought this to the people. When a young man has the urge to go on a raiding party, he grabs his buffalo robe and begins singing from camp to camp. It is like serenading the people at night in his camp. When the people hear this young man singing, they know right away what the meaning of this ceremony is. This young man is going to Salish, which means he is pledging himself to go into enemy territory, to steal horses, steal something that is marked red, maybe sneak up on his enemy and touch him without him knowing it. He's going to gain honor for himself. As this young man pounds on the buffalo robe and sings his song, you'll notice others come to help him in his singing. Some of these young men who join in on the singing are also pledging themselves that they will accompany this young man on the Salish.
How many camps do they sing for, Grandpa?
Well, Mary, they sing all night long. If the Sinkaka'a group completes a full circle around the encampment and daylight hasn't come yet, the Sinkaka'a group would continue until daylight around the encampment.
Then the raiding party would leave at daylight?
No, Tommy. The raiding party, which is called Salish, would leave before daylight. So sometime during the night, the raiding party would sneak away out of camp on foot without horses.
Why wouldn't they take their horses?
Because these young men are going to steal horses. When they come home, they will be riding and herding these stolen horses back into camp. Maybe during one of these raids, there is someone in a group who is a beginner. This would be his first time to go on a raiding party. He would tell his parents that he was going to join the group. His mother would prepare him with clothing, food, and maybe 4 or 5 pairs of moccasins, because he will wear them out on his long journey.
How old would one be to go with these warriors?
Well, Tommy, the young man would be 12 years old.
Wow, 12 years old, that's kind of young, isn't it?
No, at 12 years old, a person is already considered a young adult. This was the training that the young people received while they were growing up. The teachers taught the boys to be good warriors, good hunters, good providers, and good helpers. To be good in everything they'd done. The girls were taught to butcher and take care of the meat that the men killed. They were also taught to tan the hides, sew and make moccasins, teepees, and many other items from the tanned hides of these animals. The girls were also taught to dig and care for the roots, to pick berries and dry them. All of these and much more were to be prepared and stored away for their winter food supply. All the children were taught to be proud. Pride was in everything they did. This was noticed in the way the people saw your work, how white, purty, and soft your tanned hides were, how good your sewing was, how straight and flat your quill work or beadwork was. The people noticed how you cared for the berries and roots if it was stored away nice and clean. The people noticed in the hunts of the young men if prayers or offerings were given to the animals that were killed. They could tell whether it was a clean kill or not. You know, it wasn't nice to have many holes in the hides that were to be tanned. The people could tell if you gutted and skinned your kill in a good and careful way. Pride was in everything that you did. You always had to have a good heart. You were taught to be an honorable and truthful. You never lied. You always spoke the truth. The people took you for your word. The people respected you because you're an honest and trustworthy person. If you were sloppy in everything, if you lied or cheated, well, the people saw this and you wouldn't be trusted with anything. Now think of this. If your parents went on a vacation, do you think they would trust you to take care of the home? Probably not. Not many of you, I'll bet. Well, you know, there are some adults today who couldn't be trusted with anything. Their word is not honorable. So be good people, okay?
Okay. Then what you're saying is that when you're 12 years old, you're considered a warrior?
Oh no, Mary. What I'm saying is that this young man at 12 years old who accompanies the young warriors on their raiding party, he doesn't become a warrior just like that. This is another part of his training. He becomes the lowest man in the group. He is pitiful. He'd be among many warriors who were sitting and waiting for a drink of water. There is a certain cup to drink from. It is made from the horn of the buffalo. This is called a mutlaman. That mutlaman was tied at the base and the tip with buckskin string so it can loop over the shoulder. The leader would say to this certain young man, "Go bring me a drink of water." The distance of where the water is from the group would be quite far. The young man did as he was told. He brought water for the leader to drink. After the leader drinks some of the water, he would spill the rest of the water on the ground and tell the young man to go get water for the rest of the warriors. As each of the warriors drank, they did the same as the leader, spilling the water out on the ground, and the young man continued bringing water in this same fashion to all the rest of the warriors in the group. This is one of the ways the young man is being taught on how to be a good warrior. He has to earn his way up in rank. You see, the warriors never went directly into open country, especially to water holes, without first seeing if it is safe enough. This is what the animals do. They are very careful of their enemy. So the warriors send the young man out for water. If the enemy kills him, then they know it's not safe.
Man, that was pretty tough training for those new guys. When does the young guy move up in rank so he's not treated like this anymore?
Well, Tommy, if the raiding party comes in contact with the enemy and the young man returns to his group leading a horse or has taken something red and is witnessed by one of the group, it's like he comes alive. So when the raiding party returns to the main encampment, the leader would report to the chief on how well everything turned out and how this young man gained his honor. The chief would ask this young man in front of the rest of the tribe, "Did you steal?" "Yes," the young man would answer. Then the chief would say, "The next time you go on a raiding party, don't get water for anyone. You will have your own cup to drink from. Whoever the next young man is, he will bring you a drink of water. When the leaders or the chiefs have a meeting, they will call you to join them because you've already been chosen to be one of the warriors. You get a good straight stick and whittle it until the stick is clean and smooth. Mark it with one red stripe. Tie an eagle feather on it. This will indicate the one horse you have stolen. On your blanket, you mark a red stripe also."
It must take a long time to become a chief or a leader, right, Grandpa?
Yeah, Mary. But it would depend on the warrior, how good he was. Sometimes he moves quickly up the ranks, but normally he earns it stripe by stripe and eagle feather by eagle feather. It takes many great deeds and years to carry the Indian flag, which is called Tzitla. Then he becomes next in line to be a leader or a chief. The golden eagle is the protector of the Indian people. His feathers are signs of leadership, which is worn on bonnets, tied on Indian flags, shields, teepees, lances, horses, and many other items. At any gathering, you could see the rank of the warrior according to his deeds of honor by the decorations of the symbolic or ceremonial objects he carried. Some of these objects were a stick with a crooked end, a spear decorated with eagle feathers, a short stick with a decorated hoop at the end, decorated clubs, quirts, rattles, pipes, decorated sashes, armbands, headbands, and garters. There were certain men who carried no weapons or shields. These were the fearless men who could go into the thick of battle and come out uninjured. See the group over there? That's what's called SKC-TV, the awakening of the people. I guess you could say that's an Indian alarm clock. The SKC-TV was one continual song that the wake-up group sang. The SKC-TV would be singing and going around the encampment clockwise from camp to camp. The dancer you see approaches a camp. The door flap of the teepee is closed, so the dancer enters the teepee, dancing clockwise, and completes a full circle inside. He's not really shaking anyone awake. Then the dancer leaves the teepee. The wake-up group would then proceed on to the next camp. If a person is standing at the camp, or if the door flap is open, the wake-up group bypasses this camp and continues on to the next camp. The SKC-TV was more or less telling you it's time to wake up. In the old times, they didn't go into your teepee and pull the blankets off you. They woke you up in a respectful manner.
Grandpa, what's happening over there?
Well, Mary, that person is called the SKC-TV.
I know what Nkosmi means. It means dog, right?
That's right, Tommy.
That's a crazy name for a person.
Oh, he has a regular Indian name. The people call him SKC-TV because he has an important position in the community. Remember when I was telling you guys about the warriors who never carried any weapons or shields?
Yeah. I think you called them the fearless ones.
That's right. There were a few of these fearless men, and this man, he is one of them, the SKC-TV. His wife would tell him, "It's time to get food for the camp."
I remember hearing about this. Isn't this what is called the begging song?
Yes, Mary. That's what it's called today. Again, the people who like to study about the Indian ways got the wrong interpretation of this important ceremony. What the SKC-TV is doing now is called SKC-TV, grazing for food. That's what the translation is saying. He's not begging. So after his wife asks him to get some food, the SKC-TV gets on his horse and begins singing his song. He is carrying a hand rattle which is called tsaatle. He is shaking this tsaatle as he sings. His horse seems to know what to do without being guided. The horse goes around the encampment, stopping at the first camp. A person comes out of the camp and has a little bundle of food wrapped up in material and ties it either on the horse or on the SKC-TV. This food would be attached anywhere on the horse, maybe on the mane, the tail, around the neck, anywhere. Or maybe it was attached to the leggings of the man, around his arm, around his neck, wherever. The SKC-TV never refused anything that was given. The horse would proceed on to the next camp without being signaled to. I guess it had been trained to do this. After the SKC-TV arrives back to his camp, he is still singing. He is in a trance. His wife leads the horse closer to camp. Then she unpacks the food he has come home with.
To me, it still sounds like he's begging for food.
Yes, Tommy. I guess it sounds that way, but it isn't. The people are thankful, and they are paying him for his services. For you see, he is considered as an outstanding warrior, the fearless one, who needs no weapons to defend himself. Here's what happens. When a group of warriors are out on an excursion, the SKC-TV is following at the rear of the warriors on foot. If the warriors come within a short distance of the enemy, they would stop and the leader of the group would call for the SKC-TV by his name. You would hear the SKC-TV imitating the barks of the dog as he ran to the front of the warriors. The leader, pointing towards the enemy, would say, "Go this way, go to where the enemy is." Maybe a horse would be given to the SKC-TV by his relatives to ride, and he would ride towards the enemy, riding in the midst of the enemy without any weapons to humiliate the enemy. The SKC-TV's power was great. The enemy couldn't catch him, kill him, or harm him in any way, even if they tried. The enemy had their own dogs also. The old people used to say that sometimes a battle would be settled between the enemy through the SKC-TV's brave deeds. Maybe when these two SKC-TV met, they would agree on a weapon which to arm themselves with. Maybe it was a knife. They could stand in front of each other, taking turns and stabbing one another until one fell dead. The SKC-TV was not a special society for our people, as was with other tribes. It was an individual role. It was through the guardian spirit of the dog which gave one the strength to be brave and mean. Through this spirit, he was given directions on how to arm himself, sometimes with only a shield or only a knife, but he always carried a tsaatle, the rattle, which was made of rawhide filled with pebbles of stone. You know, the people always took care of their leaders. They always shared with the important people of the tribe, such as the medicine men and the women. The spiritual leaders, the chiefs and the SKC-TV and other important leaders. In this way, it leaves these leaders the freedom to be servants for the people, so they wouldn't have to go hunting for themselves to provide for their families. The people provided for them.
Grandpa, look over there. What's going on over there?
Sounds like the SKC-TV, Mary, the victory song. It must be the warriors that went out who are returning victorious. Watch, they should be coming into view shortly. Pretty exciting, isn't it?
Wow. Man,
Holy cow!
what a sight.
Look at the warrior in the lead. You see the way he is riding back and forth?
Yeah.
That's what's called esnkate. More or less saying he has something he wants to pay out. He would be given war cries. The victory party would be following. Everyone singing and giving war cries. You see the ones who are guiding their horses from side to side?
Yes.
They're the ones who gained honor. Their faces are painted black. They are riding this way so they can prevent the old people from stopping them. If one of these old people succeed in stopping one of these warriors who gained honor, they would be presented with a short stick, which was previously prepared. This stick was an indication of a gift to the old person of a captured horse. So the person who received this stick expressed his or her gratitude by honoring the warrior with a praise or glad song, which is called Lemti Kwelam.
See that old lady over there? What does she sing?
Mary, she's saying, "Give me that scalp. I'll bet you're the person who killed my husband and my son." Now watch what she does with the scalp when she receives it. The victory party would ride at a gallop through the encampment a couple of times, then they usually end up in the center of the encampment for more celebration. The people danced throughout the rest of the day and most of the night. The people would know that the next day the women would share in the victory party in the scalp dancing. Well, here's the new day, the day when the ladies celebrate the victorious return of the raiding party. If you guys will listen carefully, over in that direction, you'll hear a man singing. Hear him?
Yeah.
What's he saying, Grandpa?
Well, Tommy, he's saying, "Loan me your wife, we're going to scalp dance. Loan me your daughter, we're going to scalp dance. Loan me your paternal granddaughter, we're going to scalp dance. Loan me your maternal grandmother, we're going to scalp dance." This man would mention all the ladies, the aunts and the mothers and so on.
What is the song called, Grandpa?
Mary, that is what's called Eskutni Tenochon. He's borrowing wives. He's asking the encampment to loan him their wives, their daughters, and so on for the scalp dancing that is to begin today. You can see the ladies following. Some are being directed to certain teepees for the preparation of the scalp dance. The people at this camp paint the faces of the ladies. They fix their hair and they dress them in clothing and headdresses that were worn in battle by the warriors. Each one of these ladies would be directed to go to a certain camp They never had their own choice of which camp to get their faces painted at. This ceremony is called SKC-TV. They are painting one another's faces. The song for the SKC-TV would be sung. This song is called SKC-TV Kwelam. It looks like the ladies are ready to go to the dancing area. You'll notice that the ladies waited for everyone else to get finished. They didn't immediately go to the dance area. There is a song that will escort these ladies to the dance area. The men are lining up now to begin the SULI, the scalp dancing. You'll notice that the drummers are using hand drums and not the large drum that we normally see at our celebrations. The drummers line up on one side facing the ladies. This dance step is different. It's more like a hop, a jump dance, and they dance forward, then back to their starting positions. Watch. There are numerous songs for the scalp dancing. They used to say that some of the celebrations for the scalp dancing would last as long as 3 days. Of course, not continuously. The encampment would rest at night, then start in again the next day. This dance was also considered one of the times that the ladies could choose a man to be her husband. During one of these songs, you'll see one of the ladies who is carrying a pole with the scalps attached to it. She arrives in front of the drummers, and she would place the pole on one of the drummer's shoulder. If the drummer pushed the pole off his shoulder, it was a sign he was refusing this girl's hand of marriage. But if he left the pole on his shoulder, he was automatically married to this lady. Shouting and war cries and shrills would be heard from the dancers and the spectators.
What are those people doing over there? The group that is coming into the dancing area. See, they're all dressed funny.
Well, Mary, those are the fearless ones. These are the women who have gone into battle alongside with the men. They are called Sheenam's-Cheen. They are the brave and fearless ones. You'll notice they have their faces painted black with charcoal. They wear anything for their clothing, old hides, sunflower leaves, bushes, anything. They join in with the rest of the dancers. Watch what they're doing now. They're mixing in amongst the drummers and teasing them. Well, thank you for the good drink of water. I guess this will be a good time to take a short break. We'll start in again about 15 minutes, okay?
Okay, sounds good to us.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin with the second act, we bring you to a time nearly 200 years ago on September 4th, 1805, the first time Lewis and Clark and their expedition first met the Salish and Pend people. A large band of Salish and Pend people were camped at a place called the Great Clearing, which is known by the non-Indians today as Ross's Hole in the upper Bitterroot Valley. The Bitterroot Salish were gathered there just as generations of their ancestors had done before them. The Bitterroot Salish were harvesting chokecherries and pasturing their fine horses before moving on toward the buffalo hunting grounds just southeast of here around the Three Forks, Bozeman, and Yellowstone area. The Salish encampment consisted of over 30 teepees. There were some 400 people in the group, 80 of which were warriors, and the Salish had with them a large number of horses. We will now take you back to that time, so sit back and relax, enjoy the rest of the show.
What is happening over there? And what is she saying?
Well, Tommy, that's the scout returning with news that he has seen something. The woman is shouting, "We're being barked at! We're being barked at! Come, all of you! Come! We're being barked at!" This is what is called es heomi he is barking. Wahoo! 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 Listen, you can hear the scout howling as he approaches the encampment. He is making the sounds of the wolf. The chief's name is Salish-Pend, which means 3 eagles. You can see he is spreading out his blanket in front of him on the ground, and he's also carrying a stick. And look over there in the direction where the scout is coming from. You'll notice he's not riding straight forward into camp. He rides in one direction, then he turns and rides back in the other direction in a zigzag fashion. The people are singing the Esheomi Quedlip, which means the being barked at song. Now we see the scout arriving to where Chief Salish-Pend has spread out his blanket. The scout stops his horse on the blanket. Salish-Pend hits the scout with a stick he is carrying, not very hard. This breaks the scout's trance. Yeah! The scout has shouted one of 2 sounds. Yeah, which means he saw human beings, or we, which means he saw a buffalo.
Yeah. Yeah. Hashem luas udlam lu tas nam yakst upen kchiuyus. Who's dem luas me.
What did Chief Three Eagles say?
Salish-Pend.
What?
Salish-Pend, Mary. That's the chief's Salish name. Now all of you say it. Salish-Pend.
Salish-Pend.
Good. Chief Salish-Pend is saying, yeah, oh yeah, you that don't know what you've been doing, but you have sharp eyes. Okay, tell us your news. Let's listen to what the scout is saying. Chen wechem what quen quench ewest tata holosi. Quaitl test go to, o quaitl test chai ayote. Est uchtechudlum yeskedli. Chnesente imi weswis chaelchi. Chodlepl chena e quais. West Chilia arken. I toch west le emets de luwa poort dem plosel gelacht. Nechwar na komt dem plos tsetsem. Ets galgalos des lolte. The scout saying, I saw about 20 people heading this way, some walking and leading their horses, and the others riding. These people are different. I think this group is a war party, because among them there is one warrior who has painted his face black. The group has their hair cut in the sign of mourning, and I think they are in mourning for the rest of their party, who may have been slaughtered by the enemy. Also, the enemy may have stolen their blankets, because they look very cold. Their skin is very pale and pink.
Are the scouts always out there scouting around?
Oh yes, Tommy. In those days, the Salish and PEND people always kept close watch over their camps. They always had scouts out, because there was always the fear of an attack by an enemy tribe.
What's happening now, Grandpa?
See over there, Tommy? Chief Salish-Pend has called a meeting with the other leaders. Let's listen to what the conversation is about.
What do you think's going to happen? Do you think we'll see war?
Ooh, who knows? Let's watch and see. so we can find out what's going to happen.
Gelitl man lupulli lil michum keks qamqamilshum lu qes heomis mi mis. A qeksen aqanam lu qes sissius. Qes qumim siyet tuhleliu. Achmim qes tuukum siyet qesen qeiten.
Chief Chetles Amy is saying, I called for you, the leaders, so we can meet. We need to know what your thoughts are on the news of the returning scout. Shall we send out our warriors to wipe out these strangers, or should we bring them here safely? This was the ways of the chief a long time ago. He always called for his leaders to discuss matters to get their input and to give their comments on ideas on any situation. Because he was chief, he wouldn't say, Okay, I'm the chief. Whatever I say is final. No, he discussed matters with the people. Even his wife could have a say in a matter. The chief had respect for everyone. He knew through his training that everyone had a different heart, which was given by the Creator. He knew that everyone had visions and dreams. Through these visions and dreams, maybe a warning would be revealed to a person, and he would immediately report this to the chief. The chief doesn't say, get out of here, you don't know what you're talking about. No, the chief listens and respects this person's warnings, because he knows the Creator's spirits come in many forms to any person. The chief respects a person for his or her word, because everyone was taught from the time they were young to always speak with a straight tongue, never to lie. This was how the Salish signed the treaties. It was by their word.
Old Charlie, look, something's about to happen.
Luisen suchne, bestuti. Kon quaint lucht see sutab seatsum. Utluqoi ist gulpach. Daqiqibs huplu nemil qeoyamstum. Kamp nechwis sentels yetqan ple umthuusis.
Chief Chetles Amy is saying, This is what I hear from all of you. You're saying they have pitiful horses and they don't have any blankets. I too have thought this out. There would be no honor to make these people suffer any more than they have already. So I think we should bring these people here and give them shelter.
So nom tui pesia. Yaqi lil michum qet qamqamilshmantum. Yaqastemelu yetel stlechtin weststakhlusi. Les shiqe stentels nem qe qomqomanteam. Utel siqe qamqami uqetsuti. Daqiqsel panuuntum. Milul qon khoint. Nem koolsten luqe sissiusti tuitqs. Tuyusum sjechqesen qeiten. Daqstam qeqes chtentsuti. Kheimsh es khayeilshi.
Here's what Chief Chetles Amy is saying. All of you people listen. We had a meeting amongst us leaders and have come to an agreement on what shall happen to the people that are traveling in this direction. Our first decision was to kill them all, but after more discussion, we decided that we will not harm them. They seem to be in a pitiful way, so I will ask the warriors to go and escort them to our village and to do no harm to them. But if it looks like they are going to fight, then we'll have them all killed. We must be very careful. This may be a raiding party.
Koiui, quistweten tiziul qonqoneliu. Pen pest and suti, lupuln sissieus. Pen tapqes pulsqe. Nets heiten tiqtem sheshe. Es yaam kommentep. Pen nets heul gest, msheshe. El tukun bjetqesen qeiten. Pseune taqesel penust. Hoiui pesia.
Grandpa, what did Chief Chettles me say?
Mary, he said, "All of you, go bring back the pitiful ones, and take care of yourselves, you brave ones. But don't kill them. If it looks like they will fight back, then kill them all. But if they seem to be friendly, then bring them back to our village. Remember, don't harm them. Go, all of you."
Grandpa, I think the war party's returning. Listen.
Yes, Tommy, I think you're right. I hear the horses coming now. From the stories of our elders, there was a lot of confusion and misunderstanding between Lewis and Clark's expedition group and the Salish people. First, there was the language barrier between Lewis and Clark and the Salish. You see them making the sign of tapping the forehead?
Yeah.
Well, in the sign language, that's the sign for our people, the Salish. Through the various language translations, it was misinterpreted. It just so happened that there was a young Shoshone boy who was living with the Bitterroot Salish at the time. He was about 12 years old. He had been captured by the Blackfeet and was later freed by the Bitterroot Salish. He recognizes Sacagawea's sign that she's Shoshone also, and they embrace. This young Shoshone boy served as interpreter for Chief Chettles. Here's what happens in a language translation. The chief would speak in Salish to the Shoshone boy, and he would translate what was said into Shoshone language to Sacagawea. Sacagawea would then speak in Hidatsa to her husband Charbonneau. Charbonneau would then translate what was said into French to the bilingual French-English speaking man in the Lewis and Clark party. Then the French interpreter would translate into English what was being said to Lewis and Clark.
Oh, Flathead.
So that's how the name for the Salish people came to be for nearly 200 years. See how difficult it was?
Man, now I can see how there was a lot of confusion and misunderstanding between Lewis and Clark and the Salish people. What did the Salish people call themselves?
They called themselves Tataayakan. Can you guys say that? Tataayakan.
Tataayakan.
Very good. That means hair that stands up in front. You can see some of the warriors wearing their hair in this fashion, see? Look over there, at the colored man. That's the one who is called York. This is the first time the people have ever seen an African American. This is quite a puzzling sight for the Salish people. You'll see some of the people are rubbing York's hands and face. They think he has painted himself with charcoal, like our successful warriors do when they return from a raiding party. The Salish people believe that York is the bravest one in this party. It looks like the chief is asking Lewis and Clark's party to be seated.
Taps seats am Shuchel Snemutis. Imiu naaq umltam. Huits huepelps.
Grandpa, what did he say?
Well, Mary, Chief Chettle's Amy said, "They do not have robes to sit on. I'm sure they were stolen. Bring them some robes." Now look at what they're doing. They just cover their shoulders with them.
What is Chief Chettle Scamey doing now?
Well, Tommy, it looks like he's checking their packs to see what they have with them.
Iwan wiu chellneu kwaan chantam tshmeis. Holsheu tas huit chtanum tinelsen qolqeltis. Imiu tshmel huntam. Atchant. Iwan wiu eskutis skame. Khoimiu chellneu es tlskame. Ma atchant lusqan qointes tamtamach luchtnuumtis.
He's saying, "Clearly we see this group has nearly escaped the enemy. That is why they have very little belongings in their pack sacks. The rest of their clothing must have been stolen. Look at them. They must be very hungry, perhaps starving. And see how poor and torn their clothes are. Bring them some food, some dried buffalo meat, boiled bitterroots, dried camas, and dried berries. Also bring them some clothing of buckskin and light buffalo robes."
Grandpa, what are they doing? Don't they know that dry meat tastes good?
I guess not, Mary. In the stories of our elders, they said that this group must have thought the dry meat was bark or wood, so they didn't eat it. The same was done with the camas and bitterroots that were offered to them. Our tribal customs teach us that it's very offensive to refuse food that is offered to you. Even if you had eaten a full meal and you were invited to sit and eat, you never said no.
Man, that guy could die of overeating, couldn't he, Grandpa?
Yeah, Tommy, I guess a person would. But the polite way to ease yourself out of this situation would be to say, "I've just eaten, but I'll have a little something to eat with you anyway." You know, if you were to cook for a special guest, you'd bring out the best of your food, right?
Right.
Well, that's the same situation here. The Salish offered their best foods, and this is something they would have prepared for a chief. It looks like the pipe is being filled to be offered to the guests. Watch this. Now watch what's going to happen. Lewis and Clark are filling their pipes with their own tobacco. I see that Lewis and Clark are motioning to get some knick-knick from the Salish. Tobacco and knick-knick were mixed together. The pipe is lit and offered to the Salish. This time the Salish found this smoke to be excellent. The Salish thanked Lewis and Clark, whom they believed was a friendly party. Lewis and Clark in turn found the Salish to be friendly also, so they decided to make camp right there and give signs to the Salish that they had blankets in their packs with which they used to sleep in, and gave back the robes that were given to them as gifts.
What's the big discussion going on over there, Grandpa?
Tommy, they're talking about the shortest way to get to the big river that flows into the ocean, and it seems they finally got their information together.
Grandpa, I can understand one of the signs that is given in this meeting. That's the sign for horse.
That's right, Mary. As a matter of fact, they're seeing if they could trade some of their horses and possibly purchase some. Lewis and Clark's stock was exhausted from their journey. The Salish gifted them with a dozen of their elegant horses, as Captain Clark described them in his journal. In return, the Salish accepted 7 lame horses and a few small gifts. The tribe also gave the strangers food from their supply, along with robes and a dozen pack saddles. Altogether, goods that represented a great amount of labor and work that had been carried out by Salish women over countless days and months in the previous year. Captain Clark wrote in his journal, "The cheap rate at which horses are to be obtained from the Indians of the Rocky Mountains and west of them reduced the expenses of transportation over this portage across the Bidroots to a mere trifle."
Liekes chwihui. Kwem lut khest qedl tsiistem qsthui yel qestuli. Kwem til shem et khayem yetel emle nes. Lupul sisius nemt shintep. Eskul khayust lutqil til qishmen. Nemt tum samtlis khutsusim khuyusent. Til shem pelt pelchusum. Pelt hui hapseune.
Grandpa, what is being said by Chief Chetlski?
Mary, he's saying, "These people have been brought here safely. I want them taken out safely. I want you warriors to protect them from our enemy. You will escort them to the Lolo Pass. From there you will return home. Have you heard my words?" "Yes," replied the warriors. So the Salish warriors escorted the Lewis and Clark's expedition down the Bidroot River from Ross's Hole to a place called Tumsumthli, which means no salmon there. Today we know this place as the town of Lolo. From there they went up the trail to Lolo Pass. This was the western edge of Salish country. The Salish were puzzled toward the behavior of Lewis and Clark's expedition group. For instance, the refusal of food that was offered them. Also the clothing and robes that Chief Chetlski gave them were not taken with them. Was it because the white men didn't understand that they were gifts? Had the Salish people known that all the Salish land had already been sold from under them through the Louisiana Purchase, and also had they known what Lewis and Clark's real mission was, the Corps of Discovery would never have survived. This part of history would never have been told today. Captain Meriwether Lewis, his instructions from President Thomas Jefferson stated, "The object of your mission is to explore the Missouri River and to find the best water route to the Pacific Ocean for the purpose of commerce. In short, Lewis and Clark were primarily sent west to lay groundwork for the establishment of an American claim to the emergent fur trade in the West. When Lewis returned to St. Louis in September 1806, he immediately wrote to President Jefferson. He stated in his report, "We view this passage across the continent as with immense advantages to the fur trade. The Missouri and all its branches from the Cheyenne upwards have more in beaver and common otter than any other streams on earth, especially that portion of them lying within the Rocky Mountains. Although the Columbia River does not have as much as the Missouri River in beaver and otter, but it would furnish a valuable fur trade. There might be collected considerable quantities of the skins of 3 species of bear, with a great variety of colors and of superior delicacy. Also, those of the tiger cat, several species of fox, marten, and several other animals."
The lives of the Corps of Discovery were spared for a number of reasons. First, the group was mistaken as a war party who had suffered defeat and was mourning their loss because their hair had been cut short. Second, their skin was very pale. They looked very ill and hungry. Third, they didn't carry any blankets, and their clothes looked torn and pitiful. Fourth, York, the Negro slave of Captain Clark, was mistaken as a successful warrior for this group. And finally, the Salish were puzzled by the Shoshone woman, Sacagawea, who rode up front with Captains Lewis and Clark. This woman had to be a very important person to this group to be allowed to accompany their leaders up front. To see a woman riding a horse, yet alone be riding up front with their chiefs, was very rare. Lewis and Clark reported in their journals of tribal rituals and practices of the native people to which they did not understand. Too often, these cultural traditions were dismissed as strange or awkward, making no attempt to understand their meanings. There was little recognition of the rich native traditions that were handed down from generation to generation. In most non-Indian accounts, the arrival of the Lewis and Clark expedition marks the beginning of history for Montana. But Lewis and Clark were, in fact, entering a tribal world that was older than they could have possibly imagined. When Lewis and Clark departed the Salish-Pend people, life went on normally. The people are now getting ready for the coffee dance. Old Charlie will tell you all about this dance.
You can see the people are getting ready for the coffee dance.
Wait a minute, Grandpa. You said coffee dance. I don't quite get the meaning for coffee dance.
Yes, Mary. Again, the writers who studied the Indian ways have given this dance this name. The name for this dance in Salish-Pend is Sinchu-cha. It means the prayer song. You see, when this dance was performed a long, long time ago, it was used for the blessing of the first killed buffalo. One young bull would be selected, killed, and brought back to camp. Every part of the buffalo was sacred. When the meat was boiled, and the broth of the meat would be placed in the center of the camp to be blessed. But later in years, I guess around the 1940s and 50s, the Indian people would do this dance as an exhibition, using a pot of boiled coffee instead of the buffalo broth. I guess that's where the name coffee dance came from.